All right, so we're diving into Michael Connelly's The Waiting today. And let me tell you, based on the excerpts you sent, this one's wild. Crime fiction cold cases, and just a hint of something seriously unsettling lurking beneath the surface.
Yeah.
And to help us navigate these murky waters, we've got an amazing expert here who I swear has a sixth sense for connecting the dots even before Connelly lays them out for us. So before we get into the nitty-gritty, what's your first impression of Renee Ballard? You're going to love this protagonist. She's everything you want in a Connelly detective.
You'll notice right away that Ballard is incredibly dedicated to her work, almost to a fault.
Really?
This drive to solve cold cases, especially those involving missing persons, seems deeply rooted in her own past, which we'll unpack later. It's like she's trying to make things right, not just for the victims, but maybe for herself too.
Okay, let's unpack this. Right off the bat, Ballard finds herself in a really vulnerable position. It's not every day a detective gets robbed of her badge and gun right.
Yeah.
What does this tell us about the stakes of the story even before the case files come into play?
It immediately raises the stakes. This isn't just about professional risk, it's personal. Connelly wants us to feel that vulnerability, especially when the trail leads to a potential domestic terrorism threat. He's putting Ballard, and by extension, the reader on edge right from the start.
And then there's the whole Black Dahlia case thrown into the mix. Talk about a blast from the past. It's like Connelly took the most infamous cold case in LA history and wove it into this already intricate narrative. How does that legendary murder case from the 1940s suddenly become relevant in Ballard's world?
It's a chilling twist, right? Ballard stumbles upon these old photos and files hidden away in a storage unit, and bam, images linked to Elizabeth Short, the Black Dahlia herself. This discovery suggests a possible connection to this infamous unsolved case, drawing Ballard deeper into a web of secrets that someone has gone to great lengths to keep hidden.
And this is where Connelly starts messing with our heads, right?
Yeah.
Suddenly we're dealing with a case within a case, past and present, colliding in a way that makes you question everything you thought you knew.
Absolutely. And remember how I mentioned Ballard's dedication to cold cases? Well, her own mother is still missing. You start to see how this personal history might be fueling her determination to solve these cases, her empathy for the victims. She's grappling with those personal demons while trying to untangle the threads of a decades-old mystery.
Which brings us to a crucial element in Connelly's storytelling genealogy. You'll notice how he uses websites like lostangels.net and investigative genetic genealogy techniques. I mean, imagine tracing your family tree, but instead of looking for great-grandparents, you're looking for potential suspects in a murder case. It's both fascinating and a little creepy, right?
Yeah, it really highlights how modern technology and databases are changing the landscape of criminal investigations, even cold cases. We're introduced to Colleen Hatteras, the genealogy specialist working with Ballard. They use these tools to uncover family connections, potential suspects, and long-buried secrets that traditional investigative methods might have missed.
It's like Connelly is saying that the past is never truly past, especially in the age of DNA databases and online ancestry research.
Yeah.
But it's not just about technology, right? He also throws in these seemingly insignificant characters who end up being way more important than we initially think.
Exactly. Take Mallory Richardson, Victor Best, and Rodney Van Ness, for example.
Okay.
They pop up almost casually, but you get this feeling that Connelly is strategically placing them like chess pieces, each one significant in ways we don't yet fully grasp.
And just when you think you're starting to get a handle on things, bam, Hatteras, the genealogy expert, turns up dead. I have to admit, this is where I audibly gasped. It's like Connelly reached out from the pages and said, "Oh, you think you're comfortable now? Think again."
It's a shocking turn of events, and it significantly heightens the danger for Ballard. Now she's not just dealing with a complex web of interconnected cases, but the murder of her own colleague. And it makes us question everything we thought we knew about who to trust and what's really going on.
Hold on to your hats, folks, because it gets even more complicated. Remember how Ballard uncovers compelling evidence related to the Black Dahlia case? You'd think that would be enough to finally bring some closure, but then the DA's office pulls a total 180. They refused to close the case, citing of all things political reasons. It's like, what? Are you kidding me?
It's incredibly frustrating, right? And it speaks to the complexities of the justice system. It's a stark reminder that even with irrefutable evidence, the pursuit of justice isn't always straightforward. Sometimes political motivations, personal biases, and the passage of time can create these roadblocks that prevent closure, leaving victims and their families in this agonizing limbo.
Oof, talk about a punch to the gut. And that's where we're going to leave you hanging for now. We'll be back in a flash with part 2 of our deep dive into The Waiting, where we'll uncover even more twists and turns in Connelly's labyrinthine plot. Okay, so last time we left off with a pretty major cliffhanger. Ballard's colleague is dead, and there's this looming sense that nothing is what it seems. Plus that whole thing with the DA refusing to close the Black Dahlia case, infuriating, right?
It really highlights the power dynamics at play. Even in these seemingly cut-and-dried cases, Connelly doesn't shy away from showing how politics, personal agendas, and even time itself can warp the pursuit of justice.
It's like he's saying that some wounds never truly heal, especially when those in power have a vested interest in keeping them open. But let's get back to those unsettling secrets Ballard uncovered. Remember that storage unit key she found? What was it like reading about her going through that stuff? It gave me the chills.
You're talking about the unit rented by that Emmett Thoyer character, right? The guy who died but somehow kept paying rent from beyond the grave. Connelly knows how to set a scene. It's like each box Ballard opens in that storage unit is another layer of a nightmare being revealed.
Totally. And what's in those boxes? More photos? But these aren't just any photos, right?
Exactly. We're no longer dealing with just the Black Dahlia case. This Thoyer had photographs of other victims, women who disappeared after Elizabeth Short's murder. It paints a terrifying picture of a killer evolving, changing his methods, maybe becoming bolder or more meticulous over time.
It's like he realized leaving bodies out in the open was bad for business, so he adapted. But that begs the question, why keep the photos? Was it a macabre memento? A twisted trophy collection?
That's what's so fascinating. It's like Connelly is giving us a glimpse into the mind of a monster, but he's not giving us all the answers. He wants us to ask those questions to grapple with the darkness.
And Ballard, she's right there in the thick of it, wrestling with these gruesome discoveries while also trying to cope with her own past traumas. That's a lot, even for a seasoned detective.
You can really see the toll it takes on her. She's physically and emotionally exhausted. Her personal life is crumbling, and yet she pushes forward. Connelly does a brilliant job of portraying the human cost of this kind of work, the way it seeps into every aspect of a person's life.
And just when you think it can't get more intense, he throws another curveball at the judge and his adopted son. That whole DNA thing with the pillowcase rapist case seemed like a dead end. But then we get this connection to Mallory Richardson, the girl from the yearbook.
It's a classic Connelly move, the seemingly insignificant detail that unlocks a whole new level of intrigue. He makes us work for those aha moments, carefully laying the groundwork so that when the connections are finally revealed, they hit you like a ton of bricks.
So walk me through this, because I have to admit, even with the expert guidance, I'm still trying to piece it all together. We have the judge, his adopted son, and Mallory Richardson, who we know died under mysterious circumstances. What's the connection?
It's all about hidden truths and the lengths people will go to protect them. Remember how the judge's son was adopted under suspicious circumstances? Well, it turns out Mallory Richardson, the girl from the yearbook who died at that prom, is the judge's son's biological mother.
Wait a minute. You're saying the judge's son is Mallory's baby, but how? Why?
Those are the million-dollar questions, right? Ballard discovers that the adoption was handled very quietly, almost like a cover-up. And then there's Andrew Bennett, the seemingly squeaky clean real estate agent. Ballard met him at an open house. But remember, she also suspects him in Hatteras' murder.
Okay, so we've got a murder genealogy expert, a judge with a secret past, and a real estate agent who may or may not be a murderer. How does Connelly even keep track of all this?
That's the beauty of his writing. He manages to juggle all these threads without ever losing control of the narrative. And just when you think you've got a handle on one aspect of the story, he throws in a new twist or a new character that sends ripples through the entire investigation.
Speaking of ripples, let's talk about that bombshell, the leak to the press, about Ballard's investigation into the Black Dahlia case. Who would do that and why?
It's one of the biggest questions Connelly leaves unanswered in these excerpts. Was it an intentional leak designed to help Ballard, or was it something more malicious, a way to derail the investigation or discredit her? It's a brilliant move because it adds another layer of uncertainty and raises the stakes even higher.
It definitely keeps us guessing, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But it also backfires in a way, right? I mean, the DA still refuses to officially close the Black Dahlia case, even though it's clear that Ballard is onto something big.
It's a classic catch-22. Ballard uncovers evidence that could rewrite history, but the powers that be, for reasons that remain murky, refuse to budge. It's like they'd rather let sleeping dogs lie, even if it means justice is denied.
Okay, so we've got a tangled web of secrets, a potential cover-up, and a whole lot of unanswered questions. What happens next?
Well, just when Ballard thinks she's hitting a wall, she gets a call that changes everything. Remember how her own mother disappeared years ago?
How could I forget? It's been hanging over this whole investigation like a ghost story Ballard can't escape.
Well, that ghost story just became very real. Ballard's contact in Maui has news. They found her mother alive, but in police custody.
No way. You're kidding. Talk about a game changer.
Connelly saves that bombshell for the very end of these excerpts, leaving us on the ultimate cliffhanger. What happens next? What will this reunion mean for Ballard, both personally and professionally?
I guess we'll have to wait for the next installment to find out. Don't go anywhere, deep divers, because we're just getting started. We'll be back in a flash with part 3 of our deep dive into The Waiting, where we'll finally uncover the truth behind these tantalizing mysteries. We're back, deep divers. Last time we left off with Ballard grappling with a mountain of revelations, a murdered colleague, a possible serial killer's hidden lair, and to top it all off, her missing mother resurfaces on the other side of the Pacific. Talk about a bombshell ending.
Connelly really knows how to keep us hooked. It's like he's holding up a mirror to Ballard's world, showing us that even when you think you're getting close to the truth, there's always another layer, another secret waiting to be unearthed.
And that's precisely what makes this deep dive so captivating. But amidst all the chaos, Ballard's still laser-focused on getting justice for Colleen Hatteras. She's convinced that Andrew Bennett, the real estate agent, is hiding something sinister. But how do you even begin to prove that when he's already confessed to the murder?
Ballard's gut is telling her there's more to the story, and she's learned to trust her instincts. Remember, she suspects Bennett might be connected to Victor Best, the potential pillowcase rapist. It's like she's piecing together a puzzle, and Bennett is the missing link that connects these seemingly disparate cases.
It's like one of those connect-the-dots puzzles, but instead of cute animals, we're dealing with cold cases, hidden identities, and a whole lot of bad blood. But Ballard can't exactly go around revealing her suspicions, can she? Especially with Captain Gandil breathing down her neck about that leak to the press.
Exactly. She's walking a tightrope here. Ballard's not just battling a corrupt system and a handful of dangerous individuals, she's also navigating the treacherous waters of office politics. One wrong step could jeopardize the entire investigation.
So how does she play this? Does she confide in anyone? Does she go rogue?
She does what Ballard does best. She follows the evidence, even if it means bending the rules a little. Remember that connection between Bennett and Mallory Richardson, the judge's son's biological mother? Well, Ballard discovers that Bennett was more than just a casual acquaintance. He was directly involved in arranging the adoption.
Wait a minute. This whole time I thought it was just a coincidence, a tragic case of wrong place, wrong time. But you're saying Bennett was pulling the strings.
It certainly seems that way. And it gets even more intriguing. Ballard suspects that Bennett may have been the one who impregnated Mallory at that prom, and that the judge adopted the baby to protect someone or something.
Okay, now I'm starting to see why Ballard has that look in her eye, that I'm onto something big. But how does she get Bennett to crack?
She uses his ego against him. Ballard knows that Bennett likes to be seen as a pillar of the community, a stand-up guy. So she poses as a journalist working on a story about the St. Vincent's class of '99, hoping to get him to slip up and reveal what he knows.
Such a classic tactic. But does it work?
It does. Bennett, blinded by his own vanity, lets his guard down and reveals some incriminating details about that night. He admits that he was at the prom with Best and Mallory, placing him squarely at the scene of a potential crime.
So does this confession give Ballard the smoking gun she needs to take down Bennett?
It's a step in the right direction, but Bennett's no fool. He realizes that Ballard is onto him, and true to form, he tries to disappear.
Of course he does, just when we thought things were about to get wrapped up.
But Ballard is one step ahead. She anticipates Bennett's move and sets a trap using his own arrogance against him. She tracks him down to an open house in Laguna Beach, the perfect setting for a final confrontation.
You've got to give me the details. What happens next? This sounds epic.
It's pure Connelly magic, a culmination of all the tension and suspense he's masterfully built up over the course of the story. Bennett cornered and desperate tries to make a run for it. But Ballard, drawing on her surfing skills and her unwavering determination, manages to apprehend him.
Yes, finally. It's about time this guy gets what's coming to him. So justice is served, the pillowcase rapist is finally caught, and Ballard can finally get some closure on all those years of unanswered questions, right?
Well, not exactly. It's a bittersweet victory. Yes, Bennett is caught, but there's no guarantee that all the loose ends will be neatly tied up. The Black Dahlia case, despite Ballard's compelling evidence, remains officially unsolved due to political roadblocks. And while she manages to reconnect with her mother, there are still many unresolved issues and years of pain to unpack.
So what's the takeaway here? What has Connelly left us pondering?
He's reminding us that sometimes the pursuit of justice is messy, complicated, and rarely offers easy answers or clean resolutions, but it's a pursuit worth undertaking even when the odds are stacked against you.
Deep divers, that's a wrap on our exploration of Michael Connelly's The Waiting. What will you carry with you from this tangled web of secrets, shocking revelations, and the unwavering pursuit of justice? Keep those thoughts with you and keep those submissions coming, because who knows what intriguing mysteries await us in our next deep dive.